Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Into the 99 podcast, where we've got 99 cards, because Commander is number one. I am your Necromancer with all the answers, Zach, and I am joined by Lotus and Dan. Hello, guys. How are you doing today?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. I want to thank everyone for coming and listening to another episode of our podcast. I want to do a couple quick shout outs before we get into the episode today, because, man, this episode is going to be straight fire, and I want to get you guys all the crap out of the way so we can go to that. First and foremost, I want to thank all of our patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for, building us up and making us feel good about ourselves, because I wasn't loved enough as a child, and this makes me feel better as an adult. I want to shout out Lotus with Brewing It Live, Benton and I doing Parallel Thoughts, and Dan has started a new lore show, which is quickly becoming an obsession for me. And this week I also released a new series called What's in the Box, where we interview different people in the community. And by we, I mean I, because I have multiple personalities. This week it was with Jim from the Spike Feeder. So if you get a chance, please check it out. If you're a patron, you get early access to all of this stuff. So there's really no reason not to be a patron, because we are wonderful. And by we, I mean I, yet again.
That interview actually was really, really good. Jim, he just seems like a really fun person. I wish I could get some games in with him one day.
Look, I identify as a straight male, but I flirted with that man quite a bit. His personality is awesome. He's very smart and very intelligent. Like, his stance on a lot of things, I was surprised that we were very in line on, but just the way he explains everything with his role in the CAG and the Spike Feeders, like, if you guys don't for some reason know who he is, please go listen to that. Not even to get me street cred, but so you guys can just hear this guy talk. He's great.
Oh, it was a great time. Like, he just seems like a fun person to sit and chat with, right?
Oh yeah, it was hard. Like, I told him a half an hour, and it turned into an hour. And now I just think I'm gonna have to do an hour for every episode.
An hour segment.
Yeah.
Today, what we wanted to chat about is just in general, as the episode title states, it's Rest in Peace Your Wallet. So Gavin Verhey just put out another segment. I'm gonna play it here, and we're gonna talk about it after. But
was that Good Morning Magic?
Yeah, it's just part of the Good Morning Magic thing.
Okay.
But let's get right into it, and let's hear why I will no longer have money. So yeah.
At some point. All right. So now that I've said all of that, let me walk you through the commander decks that are tied to our set releases for the rest of the year. Now, so far this year, we've had Kaldheim and Strixhaven commander decks. Modern Horizons 2 will not have commander decks, but coming up shortly thereafter is Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which has 4 commander decks, and these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven commander decks. There are 17 brand new cards per deck, and they're all built to play against each other. This is kind of a special thing, doing 2 big commander releases in a year, but it was Dungeons & Dragons, and we felt it was a perfect tie-in. After all, Dungeons & Dragons players coming into Magic will probably find Commander the format most interesting to them. It really mimics that group play feel of Dungeons and Dragons. So we're super excited to have 4 decks coming out with this set. And then, coming later this year, with both Innistrad Midnight Hunt and Innistrad Crimson Vow, we have 2 commander decks with each of them. And these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven and the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms commander decks in pretty much every way. For example, the Zendikar Rising decks had 3 the Kaldheim decks had 8 brand new cards in them. This time around, these decks have 15 brand new cards in each of them. So why 15 cards? Why not 8 like Kaldheim? Or
I'm just going to stop it there. So yeah, basically, they are just confirming what I have been saying for months now, and it's that they don't care about other sets. They are going full tilt towards Commander players and our seeming obsession with building new decks and new cards. So getting into the Dungeons & Dragons one, that's the set everyone is going to be excited for. I don't think there's any players I've seen that aren't normal Magic players or enjoying it, but anyone who grew up with that kind of stuff, plays any D&D, they are just going to be really, really excited for the set. You're going to have tribal lovers get a lot of what they want. There's going to be tons of new artifacts and equipment. I am sure that we will be seeing more of the god cards, because Forgotten Realms has a lot of gods, right? It's a perfect spot to shove new, exciting, legendary creatures in that can change the shape of Commander in a way. But 4 more Commander decks is a lot.
Are we up to 14 now?
It's going to be 15 for this whole year.
15.
Yeah.
And something to think about too is not only as Commander players, do we build around legendary creatures, but we also build around new mechanics. And there's a lot that they can potentially do with Forgotten Realms. Like, we, as D&D players, we know about multi-classing and we know about stuff like that. So there is the potential that we could see a lot of really interesting hybrid mechanics that make tribal decks, pair together that normally wouldn't pair together.
They could also be revisiting the partner mechanic again. There's that the popularity of partner was undeniable. I talk all the time about how Orvar should have had partner. Still don't actually think it's true from a logical standpoint, but I want it to be, because Orvar was a blast.
I think there's also a rumor that there's a mechanic in the D&D set called Dungeon or something like that.
Dungeon.
Yeah, I have no idea what it does, but it was floating around the Discord in the judges community that there was a new mechanic called Dungeon.
I'm also going to be honest, there's almost no way that they're not going to put a dice rolling mechanic in D&D. It would be almost negligent of them to just not include.
I think it's more likely that we see partner with than partner.
I loved partner with, to be honest.
Yeah, I did as well. It's more fun, and it feels a little, I wouldn't say more balanced, because you can build any of the partners balanced, but I mean, it just feels like it helps to more streamline and more like help you to find like, okay, this is how I want to build these two together, as opposed to with a lot of partners, the ability to do anything can be overwhelming, especially for newer players. And that's what Gavin was just talking about, is Wizards is assuming that a lot of D&D players who don't play Magic are going to be coming into Commander. So having something like partner with might be more reasonable, as opposed to just partner
instead of
outright.
just straight out of the box partner with whatever from these other sets.
Exactly.
I really, really liked how Ikoria did it with the partner with, like Halden and Paco, Yannick and Nakara, all those. Like, I loved that entire, obviously Trin and Silvar for Brian here. Like, it's, those were just really, really exciting cards. Like, not only artwork wise do I love them all, but just mechanics wise, they're really, really fun decks to build around, right? Ikoria, I still think, has the best Commander decks and options, like the most exciting. I really liked the new ones that they just came out with, but the problem is that, like, with Ikoria, we were able to build into these decks so much because that's kind of what we got. The year of Commander was pretty focused on A, Commander Legends, and B, this gigantic Commander release. We got the little cheap decks, which was all right, but now, again, this was the Commander set release, and now we're being told, basically, I think a month and a half out, hey, there's going to be 4 more, so get ready for that.
And not to mention, too, we have two main sets, and then Modern Horizons 2, which is also on a lot of Commander player radar for just simply the fetch lands. We know, I think 4 cards that have been spoiled from the main set that aren't fetch lands, but fetch lands we know for certain. We've known for, like, I think a year now that we were getting fetch lands to some degree. So people have been speculating and been preparing, and, amongst that time being Magic players, something new and shiny came out and we had to jump on it. Like, Modern Horizons is going to be very interesting for the community as a whole, as well as just the Magic players in general.
Yeah.
Well, Modern Horizons 2... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. With Modern Horizons coming out, I'm just hoping that it brings the prices down of fetches, because at the moment they're just unattainable for some people.
That's the thing. I don't think it's going to. I think because we've known for as long as we've known that fetches were getting reprinted, I don't see them dropping in price by a large margin, maybe 10 to 20% more, because that's the thing. Anyone who's been wanting fetches, this is where they're going to get them. Boxes are very expensive, even though it's a print to demand or unlimited print run, whatever you want to call it, it's still going to be, people are going to get fetches and hoard them, because this is mainly, even though it's aimed towards modern players, Commander players are as Dan said multiple times, animals, and they're going to do the same thing. No matter how expensive the boxes are, people are going to get their fetches and hoard them, whether it be the old border ones that you can get or the, full arts or what have you. I don't see fetches being cheaper as the biggest problem.
We consume product right now like fire consumes wood. Like, we are just going through it no matter what it is. The constant, it's print to demand, that only means that Wizards can just reprint it when they feel like it. It doesn't change that they're not printing enough product in general compared to what is actually being consumed. And anyone who doesn't believe that, go try buy a box of Time Spiral. Tell me how that goes.
Yeah.
I was looking this morning for some math that I was doing. It's $350 a box.
Wow.
Yeah, there's not enough of that product, right? A lot of people, so the investor side does buy it and they hoard the sealed product a little bit, but for anyone who doesn't have a big collection, things like Double Masters, things like Time Spiral Remastered, they put a lot of really good value cards in the hands of people, right? So you do have this gigantic fear of missing out on product. If you didn't have this product to begin with, this is your one chance to get it, right? They're not doing Time Spiral Remastered every year. They're not doing Double Masters every year. So getting those products, it's almost like this is your only chance to do it, right? And when you have that feeling that this is your only chance, then it makes people make, in my opinion, bad financial decisions. A lot of people either feel bad about not being able to pick the product up or are skimping on other aspects of their life to do so because, well, maybe that bill can wait till next month, but these cards can't. And I don't think that's really a super healthy way to put it. What I was going to jump into earlier was Modern Horizons 1 brought a ton of really, really exciting creatures, right? I would venture to guess all of us have either built or seen one of the creatures from it, be it like, I believe Zach had Colorless Morophon, was that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there was a ton of like decks that just, I built a ton of them, like Aula. How do you not build that artwork of Aula, right? Mm-hmm. It's great. Love the bears.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they had Aula, Morophon, Urza, Yawgmoth, First Sliver, and that's just the ones that I know off the top of my head. That isn't even the extent of them, but Urza, who doesn't fear an Urza deck, right?
And the thing that was insane about Modern Horizons was for Commander players specifically, because I know a lot of these cards didn't actually stay in Modern, like Wizards quote unquote intended. There was just so much good value through every single rarity. I still like Good Fortune Unicorn, an uncommon from Modern Horizons. My LGS cannot keep them in stock. And it's not that they're an expensive card. It's just that literally people got them and kept them because they do, it does what we want to do in Commander with +1/+1 counters. So I'm sure that we're going to see that more so with Modern Horizons too. We also saw ninjas with like ninjutsu, which insane. We saw more slivers, brand new slivers at that, and changelings. So Modern Horizons is a very interesting set, and while it's supposed to be aimed at modern players, it's undoubtedly also aimed at Commander players because they just shove things in that they can't shove elsewhere, and they make it work. Dan brought up a really good point where as Magic players, it's a lot of, man, if I can't get this right now, I'm never going to be able to get it. And that's kind of the scary thing about product fatigue. That's kind of the overarching thing about this episode is that product fatigue is very real. I don't know everyone's situation. Obviously I know you guys fairly well, so we kind of have a good understanding of what we're able to do as individuals with cards. And you guys know me, like I have a wife and a child, and I work every day except for the weekends. So am I going to be able to afford a box of Modern Horizons 2? Probably not. Could I take one of my decks apart and maybe get one? Potentially, but that's also kind of a feel bad, right? It's like, how do you choose which one of your children you want to, throw away? If you're my parents, it was easy, but for me, it's not that easy.
Zach, we love you.
Just
let us know that.
I mean,
so
I know for going back on that, I know how you feel because I'm unemployed. I'm not going to be able to buy any of this product.
But the good thing is, and something that we need to constantly remember is, while yes, it might still be hard, or maybe it still will be unattainable to get the fetch lanes that we want, there is going to be an influx of other cards that we might actually want. looking at it, Modern Horizons 2 is a very high price point, right? Which means people who have been setting on cards, especially modern players who maybe dabble in Commander, well, I have this Smothering Tithe that's fetching a decent penny. I'm going to put that towards getting my box because I want to get fetches. Same thing for like Craterhoof and same thing for Ristic Study. There are all these modern players who, while COVID's been going on, have invested and made commander decks so they could actually play Magic with their friends. And there are just other people, other commander players. My cousin's a prime example. He just has a bunch of stuff and he will unload literally everything for the new hotness, right? So that's a good thing for us and the secondary market. The secondary market right now is going to be our friends because Wizards has made it clear that they will send everything to the to our LGS to decide and determine the price. My LGS is fairly like reasonable and they're good dudes. So I typically don't worry about price, but some other people might not have the same kind of option. So we will see an influx of cards to meet that demand, which means the secondary market is going to lower prices on cards that you might not have been able to get. It's not unreasonable to think that Smothering Tithe, which a lot of people want to play, Brian plays it in every single deck, even if it's not white, go down in price because it is a higher price card. So while product fatigue is real, there's also product relief that we might not be realizing. We'll see
Actually,
that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually really like that point because I personally never trade cards in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of does remind me a little bit of what a standard rotation looks like, right? Where a lot of these great cards, like Shadow Spear is one that's going to be coming out pretty soon. And I can't wait to pick those up because you couldn't find them anywhere.
Exactly.
Right? Shadow Spear, Ember Cleave, all those kind of cards, once they are... I also don't play standard, so they could have already rotated out. But
not till September.
I know that just... Okay, yeah, exactly. So when those things do rotate out, there's a ton of price reduction for commander players, right? Where you might want to run this card, but it's expensive right now. Uro is like another example. Like not
the Great Henge
for Uro. Is the Great Henge still in standard?
The Great Henge in standard, yeah, and it's still about $50.
Hopefully it comes down soon. Every time I see it, I look at it and I'm like, I'm not buying that. It's too much.
With that being said, too, not only do we see that price reduction from people getting cards out to get trade to get a box, but people will also do the same thing where once they get a box, how it works at my LGS, pre-release weekend, you can get your box, right? And then you can open it, but they will not start letting you trade stuff in until a week after the actual set release. So, prices stabilize, which means if there's a bunch of cards people don't want, they will take those cards from that set because right now my LGS won't have them, trade them in to get another box. So while prices, don't pre-order stuff, just don't do it. Don't freak out because most of the time if there's something you want, I promise you guys that you will eventually be able to get it because a week later I can go into my LGS and be like, hey guys, I want this randomly obscure legendary creature, and they're like, what version do you want of it? That it never fails. And I've been in that position where it's like I feel like I have a gun to my head where it's like, man, if I don't get Times Power Remastered right now, I'm going to miss out on all these cards. And every time I have been utterly floored because it's like I just go in and my buddy Cole's like, yeah, which one of the versions of that card do you want?
The collector boosters have also been pretty good at bringing some of the normal card prices down. It does kind of feel bad if you like the artwork so much of it, like Orvar's my favorite card to reference right now. The alternate frame of Orvar is great, but foil of that one is still a pretty decently pricey card right now.
I've actually noticed...
No, you go ahead, Lotus.
I've actually noticed with these collector boosters, because there's so much product being pumped out, I'm starting to buy foils cheaper than the original normal card.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was so bummed because I was like, man, I'm never going to be able to get collector boosters because my LGS didn't get them for the longest time. Strixhaven was the first set that they actually got collector boosters with, right? And now it's just like I can literally get whatever I want. And like most occasions, I like just a normal full art, no foil. And those cards are typically cheaper.
Those ones are perfect. I also love those full art non-foil ones.
Mm-hmm.
I like getting border extensions for my cards, so I kind of like the customized ability to full art my own card. Well,
yeah.
Pay someone to. I have no art talent.
Right. I get what you're saying. I know I sound
print my name.
I know I sound like the devil's advocate here, but I've just been in that position where I know I've been like you guys, where it's just like, God, I can't afford to do this. I can't afford to get these cool supplemental sets. And then it makes me feel bad, not just as like as like someone who wants something, but just like as a person, like, God, I should be further along in my life to be able to do this. And it's a game. We got to remember that at the end of the day, we will always have access to these cards. Wizards wants to get money from us, which means we will always have access to these cards. We're not going to go into this, but the reserve list is another example. When Wizards really needs that money, I guarantee we will get those cards.
You wait exactly until prices drop for sales, and then suddenly we're doing dual land masters.
That would be good.
Dual land box toppers, I'd be more than happy with it. I would really like to see as well. They're just speaking just randomly off topic here. With these modal face cards, people have loved them. The pathways, I can't speak enough about how much I'm starting to like those cards. They're gonna make them fetchable. There's no way that they're not going to put the actual types on the land, right?
Yeah. So you're kind of doing like an original duel, except you can only have one side, but you get the side you need.
Yeah, so the way that they'll get around it is, technically, it will only be a forest because you can only see the front side while you're searching. So it'll be a forest that just happens to have a red mana on the back. It'll be a mountain that happens to also be able to get black.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that because that is for sure going to happen. The pathway lands, that style's not going to go away. They're going to keep printing them out. And we have been really actually getting great lands for Commander lately with that. I'm really excited to play with those pathway lands more and more the more I see them.
I typically don't like playing lands that enter the battlefield tapped. I will normally just play a basic in its place. But with Kaldheim giving us the snow lands, I've been playing those just because they're fetchable. I don't even run a lot of fetches in my decks, but I've been playing them just because the ability to, Sky Shroud claim and go get one is awesome. Same thing for Farseek.
I've only played one game so far with Arkelos, but yeah, I just have poor man duels in Arkelos, and I'm just going to drop them down like normal ones.
It's reasonable. And once again, that goes back to what, I was getting at is, while it seems like it's very like, it's an anxiety thing, I feel like, right? Where it's like, man, if I don't get this, I know I'm going to miss out. Just remember, guys, you will not miss out. I was looking today. There have been a couple cards my LGS just didn't get in. I was looking on Star City Games, and those cards that I thought were like super expensive are for sale right now for quarters.
I'm a big fan as well of people just using the snow duels as their real duels. I don't care. Play them untapped. Let's play Magic.
Yeah.
But you can only use one set of duels that way.
Yeah. Cross out the name and scribble in a new one.
Don't even cross out the name. Just be like, these are my dual lands for the deck. And they don't come in tapped because this is Commander. Rule 0. What up?
True.
That's the way I think they should be played. Again, if you're running real duels, you don't get two sets of duels. Come on, let's be reasonable. Let's all just take a breather here.
You get one or the other.
Exactly. You pick.
This was also
$900 or 50 cents.
This is also the first Commander set too, where I didn't buy every single Commander deck. I got 2, and life has been okay.
Yeah,
like
the world hasn't stopped.
I mean, I opened up the deck lists from all of them because I could afford one. So right. I bought Quandrix because I'm a Simic player.
You bought Quandrix?
What? Yeah. But I looked through the other decks and I picked up cards like is it Blot Out the Sky?
Mm-hmm.
I picked that up for about £2. I picked up Gorm the Master Chef for 50p.
Yep.
I was just picking up the cards I wanted, so I didn't have to spend so much money that I don't have.
My brain understands that that's the right way to do it. I get it, for sure. But I'm dumber than my brain.
Well, I have a singleton collection. If I have a duplicate of anything, I trade it away for something I want. That way, it saves me money, and I just rebuild decks from the same collection every time.
Do you actually? I don't think you've ever talked about that collection on one of the episodes. Do you want to quickly explain what your deck building box is about?
Okay, so I have a box. It's one of those cardboard boxes with the 4 sections that holds about 3,800 cards. Every card I own is Singleton, and I sleeve it in the Dragon Shield sleevable sleeves. And then I brew decks from the box, and if a card is going into my new Commander deck that's not in the box, it goes in the box. And then I have a continuous supply of cards that I can brew from continuously and rebuild decks. If I want to revisit an old deck, I have a deck list that can be rebuilt because I know I have the cards because they're in the box.
That's a good way to do it. I will never do things that way, but I appreciate that you do it that way because it's very smart. I love having just ultimate guard, deck boxes, only ultimate guard deck boxes.
Oh,
but I just love being able to grab, like. But like I said too, I'm also like how I collect. Like if I have 12 reanimates, I need 24 reanimates because I always want to play that card.
Yeah, no, I have about 4 decks that are always constructed. They are separate from the box. Otherwise, I have one deck that is always built from the box. At the moment, it's Gorm Master Chef. But when I feel like changing it up, that'll be dismantled, put in the box, and I'll make a new deck.
There was a couple that used to come out to our LGS, and they had all of their cards sleeved in the exact same colors, and that is what they did in between their games and stuff. They were specifically Bant players. Everything was a Bant deck, or green, like Simic, Selesnya, but those were the 3 colors. And they just quickly, in between the games, they're like, oh yeah, let me do this. And they had the list of, okay, if I'm changing over to Tuvasa, these are the cards I take out, these are the cards I put in. And it took them a few extra minutes and stuff. It was an interesting way to see people actually play the game and utilize budget building in a way that my brain could never track.
I used to do it that way, but the issue became that I didn't scale fair enough with my playgroup. And it was just like, I'm a black player, you guys know that. So it's like, all right, I'm playing my Carador deck. I'm going to move to this, I don't know, Rakdos deck. But it was still like, okay, cool. All my good black cards are going in here. Here's my Demonic Tutor. Here's my Vampiric Tutor. Here's my Reanimate. Here's my Entomb, all that stuff. So for me, I just couldn't... I couldn't be fair about it. And this way of how I build now, not only do I get to have this cool collection, but it's also put me more on a budget. And now I brew, like, I think I was talking to you about it, like with my Belby deck, Dan. I brew now in a way that's like, I go through my entire collection every time I build a commander deck. That, obviously that's not what's completed, but like what I have in my collection. And I suddenly build with cards I would never play with. So for me, it's just like I get to take all of my bulk and go through it to make new decks and play with new cards I wouldn't normally.
I like that though. I like that you kept calling it your draft chaff, just the big cards you don't ever use. I thought that was pretty entertaining. The release schedule for this year has been chaotic. I'm going to miss it. I'm not going to mention any of the secret layers. By the way, as well, my public opinion, don't buy secret layers anymore. Buy them if your LGS buys them and stuff. I'm not giving Wizards 4-month loans for my things to come late and curled. Nope, not anymore. They've had enough chances where I've bought them the day it comes out, and then, like I said, my summer edition showing up at like the beginning of December, unacceptable.
I only bought one secret lair, and I bought that from my LGS, and that was the April Fool's one that people didn't think exist. But it does.
Is that the Stormcrow one?
The Stormcrow, the white bordered Tybalt, Sinkhole, and Goblin Snowman, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's a lot of LGSs have been starting to order them in, and you can get them, as well as the secret layer exclusives. I'm not paying for fetch lands that way. Nope, get that out of here. But the Pathway ones, I will say, I just bought them. They are a good price, B, beautiful, and C, Wizards has somehow figured out that if they foil both sides of the cards, the Pringle entity gravity force that rips the cards into this nightmare actually pulls they're fighting against each other.
It doesn't know which way to curl.
They are perfect. They are flat as a board. I love them. They should just make the back of all their cards foil.
If they were smart, they would just edge foil everything and we would never have a problem.
That process was perfect, and they're like, we're never repeating this again. Here's your new etched foils. They're horrible.
Oh, the Commander Legend etched foils were beautiful.
Oh, yeah, those amazing. And then they're just like, all right, we're going to etch, I don't know, 0.1% of a card.
Oh, the slight little border around the Japanese ones.
Yeah, wink.
They also did it with the just in the English Mystical Archive. Well, just the normal Mystical Archives. Just the little gold was etched as well.
I quite liked the etch fletching on the English versions, but there was more etching than the Japanese style.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as well. I was shown recently that there is a different level of rarity in the Japanese and the English cards, because the ones that you can get, you get some of the Japanese cards from the set boosters, but the ones you get from the Japanese booster box are different color, like not a little different. They are wildly different and better looking. So some of the full art Japanese cards versus the other full art Japanese cards, depending what box you got them in, it is a night and day difference in card quality. Like it really increases the price. And I think the Japanese Time Warp in that version is like $2,500.
Wow.
I'm not saying go gamble on it. I'm just saying I am.
I opened that Time Warp from a Japanese box. I didn't notice much of a difference.
Well, it's $2,500 if it's foil.
Oh, it wasn't foil. Never mind. Mine was not foil. Mine was still 90. I think mine was still $90.
Yeah, I think Time Warp as well. But that's the other thing as well. I like their list cards as well as the set boosters. I don't really buy draft booster boxes anymore. The set booster boxes,
superior.
If the Ghost of Brian was here, he would also say we had probably the most fun opening those that I've ever seen in my life. Like, I really, really enjoyed opening the set boosters. They did accomplish what they wanted.
See,
making it a more fun rip it open box.
I can only afford a fat pack per release, so your 10 packs. I wish they did a set booster fat pack box, so you got 10.
That actually would be phenomenal.
Because what are you going to do with 10 draft boosters in a box? Like, yeah, okay, you got 10 rares and it's supposed to be for standard or whatever. But if it was 10 draft set boosters, it's better value.
Well, and a better present for someone, or like you said, exactly better for yourself. Never even thought about that, but you are right. What are you going to do with 10 booster packs for draft?
Yeah.
Draft.
It's not enough for a 3-person pod. It's not really enough to build a collection for standard players. It's a limbo product.
They really should upgrade that. I've never even considered that, because I used to buy lots of fat packs, and I have just so many. That's a lot of, I've got suitcases of cards, and a lot of them are just like organized, like here's white cards in a fat pack, here's blue cards in a fat pack.
Yeah, I've seen that. And I used
to buy so many of that specifically for I needed a new box for my white cards or blue cards or black cards. But I just haven't bought any fat packs in a really, really long time. But I have gotten a few of the, are they gift edition ones? Is that what they are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Basically anyone who spent more than 2 minutes with me knows that I like Magic cards. So it's a pretty easy product to get for me as a gift if you just have no idea what to get. Get me that or sleeves, and I'm pretty set. I always need sleeves.
Or forest.
Forest. Yeah. Or basic lands, to be honest, yeah. That's what we're using a lot of this Patreon, the Patreon dollar tier. Get me basic lands. I think a few of my friends, like 3 or 4 different people in my play group, recently just had to bring me basic lands because I was entirely out of every basic land I had. Too many decks. I wanted to go over some of the sets that we've had this year and stuff. So this year we had Kaldheim. Kaldheim had 2 decks. We had Time Spiral Remastered come out. Then we had Strixhaven, which had 5 commander decks, which should be the big bang commander product of the year. Then we have Modern Horizons 2 coming out. We have the D&D set, which is also going to have 4 commander decks. Then we have Innistrad Midnight Hunt coming out with 2 commander decks. Then Innistrad Crimson Vow coming out with 2 commander decks. And whatever other, here's a mystery booster box product that they decide to just randomly throw in off the release pattern. So I went over it. We have 15 commander decks. If where you live, an average commander deck is $30, $450 to buy all of them. To buy sleeves for all of them, $195. To buy 1 box of each of the main set, if you can get them at $150, $750. At Times Power box right now is $350. Modern Horizons 2 at $200. And then without upgrades, you're spending almost $2,000 a year to buy 1 off of each Magic product that comes out, and the sleeves to put your commander deck in. Single sleeve. I'm not an animal with double sleeving. Cut that out.
One thing that they've missed as well, where's the next Commander Green coming?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's the Commander Blue coming or whatever. Well, that was actually a good product as well. Sylvan Library needed to get back in circulation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that card in general. But again, a pricey product, then you had to have your special store to get the foil one.
Yeah.
I didn't want the foil one anyways. I didn't get it. I didn't get that product. But I got on the secondary market. I got the command tower and the soul ring that I wanted, and I paid almost nothing for them.
Yeah, the value in that set is definitely in the Omnoth Fraley. Honestly, to be honest, it was in every one of the cards, but the soul ring with its cool alternate art and the command tower were pretty available. I think the Sylvan Library is only like $60 or something, which sounds like an expensive card, but not compared to what Sylvan Library costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so like I said, like the amount that they're throwing at us, like how 15 commander decks exceeds the majority of people's collections. Most people I know do not have 15 commander decks. So just playing Magic this year alone, you would exceed pretty much everyone you know's collection. Not many people, like I said, have 15 sleeved up, ready to go commander decks. I don't know if Brian does. I know you don't right now, Lotus. You build yours, Zach. Do you?
Yeah, I've got almost 40 right now.
All right, Zach's an animal too. I get it.
Oh, I've learned from the best, Dan.
But yeah, like that, it is a lot to go through. And then some players that I've talked with and everything, like Ryan has talked about some sleeves ripping before. I've never had that happen. I don't know what kind of aggressive fury shuffle he's doing, but his cards are random. The cost to upkeep stuff like that and upgrade it as sets come out, it really is just adding up for a lot of people. And it makes it pretty hard to justify getting, for me, I'm just finding out this morning there's 6 more commander decks for the year. And I've upgraded every one of them except for the one I'm playing in our current league right now. I haven't upgraded my Silver Quill one. That's the only one I have not poured a ton of money into. I just did Witherbloom while I was off this week, and I gutted that deck. I took 57 cards out of it.
Was there anything left?
Yeah, I went really ham on that one. And then it's the same thing, like you said, the Master Chef. What is its name?
Gorm the Master Chef.
Yeah, Gorm. I'm going to be making that deck. The episode you did on it was really entertaining. It seems like a fun one. I got to see your version of it, and that was very fun. Again, I don't read cards properly, so once I realized that it was every time something entered, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to definitely living death this and make 60 food tokens. What are we talking about? Right? Like, there's a lot of like really cool stuff that comes out. And we have said before many times, Commander is a really, really self-expressive format. The problem with the self-expressive format is if you see a card you identify with, you love, and it's just, this is my play style. I love this artwork. Whatever it is that makes you personally want to build a Commander deck, seeing that back to back to back and knowing that, like, all right, well, I can either build it or I can regret not building it. It is not a good feeling for most people. A lot of people have rising resentment that they are being priced out of the game entirely, that they're just being told over and over again, like, this product isn't for you. This game, you don't need this. But if they want it, they want it, right? Again, people like cards and stuff. A bunch of my friends love Emil. They just love the unicorn artwork of it. A unicorn tribal deck is really interesting to them. Maybe they weren't going to build a Blink deck. Essex is a great example. Zach's not a Simic player.
It has to be Sultai.
Right? Exactly. But yeah, no, it's when you see stuff like that you want to just keep building, it is really hard to justify spending so much month after month after month. Like, I personally love it, support my LGS, all that stuff, but I also get that I am a unique out of touch case. I've played for my whole life and have this monster collection to build from. That's not the case for most people. Most people, especially if you've gotten back into Magic in recent years. When did you start, Lotus?
I started back in Scourge, but I sold a lot of my collection for unknown reasons, but my collection...
Just got rid of a bunch.
Yeah.
When did you start rebuilding it?
Dominaria.
So that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to get, like, a lot of these old high-value cards has been nothing but increased cost and cost and cost. And that does fuel that, what we talked about earlier, the fear that you're going to miss out, because look at Craterhoof. Every time I see Craterhoof at $30, I'm like, I'm not buying Craterhoof. I don't need it. I'll put something else in. And then it's $40. And then it's $50. And I'm still like, meh.
the big thing for me, there was 2 cards on my list that I kept telling myself at the time I wasn't going to buy because the price didn't meet what the card did, in my opinion. That was the Phyrexian Elish Norn and Gilded Drake.
Ooh, I want that Elish Norn. That was so bad.
Same. But at the time when I was looking at it, I was like 100, 120 USD. I was like, I just can't justify that. That's almost a whole nother commander deck, you know?
You're like, I have an Elish Norn. I'll be okay.
Same thing for Gilded Drake. I think at the time I was looking at it, it was like $50. I was like, that's unreasonable for what that card does. And
yeah, that price is out of control.
Yeah.
The only time, and after I'd seen those go up and how they've been, I saw Wheel of Fortune for $50 once and I bought it. Then I got rid of it earlier a couple months ago because prices are stupid. But it goes back to what I said earlier in the episode. Some of these cards we are priced out of 100%, but our LGSs in this instance is our friend. Let people buy their collector boosters. Let people trade in all the stuff that they don't want because that's not what they're looking for. Maybe they're not a black player. So that full art Gorm, next to nothing, right? It's not an expensive card. But guess what? For you, someone who actually values it, $1 card and full art that you can get from your LGS is so much better than you gambling on a collector booster, right? And it saves you more money. The money that you would spend in your collector for your collector booster, you could most likely pour into your LGS to build that deck. You could probably build a pretty budget and reasonable version of that deck with good lands, sleeves, and a boulder from Ultimate Guard, and sleeves from Katana, also Ultimate Guard.
Ultimate Guard, that's 2 ads. We are sending a bill.
You could probably just take that money and do that. It's a matter of just, I get it. I love cracking packs. I love having more in my collection. I love being able to, at the end of the box, put everything up in rarity, go to TCG players, see what the listed median is, because I like knowing, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know this foil Professor Onyx was this expensive. Dope. But we don't need to do that. Just be patient and be kind to yourself. That's the big thing. Be kind to yourself.
So
the pack cracking lottery is so addictive.
It is.
It is.
And where I've not been able to afford to do it this year, I have gone through Cowtime and Strixhaven by just not being able to buy any product bar 1 fat pack each. And I've looked through the set going, I actually just want this, and that. 4 cards. So I've either bought them because they were like £1 or $2, a couple of dollars, or I've traded them off with any duplicates I've got from the collection I already have. And I've gone, right, I could have bought a set booster for £120, but I've actually just spent £10 and got everything I needed from it. So if you really think about it, do we need to crack packs? We want to, but do we need to?
I love going over to my cousin's house after he's went on his whaling expedition, and he's gotten Commander Legends was the first set that he really did this with, right? He had, I think, 6 boxes of Commander Legends. Absolutely insane. I've never seen him open that amount of product before. I literally went over and I went through all of his stuff, and I was like, these are the things I want. What do you want for him? He's like, oh, you can just have them.
Wow.
And that's when, and to me, it was like, oh, these cards are expensive. But in reality, because of, it's been a week and prices have now been normalized. I was just like, yeah, all these uncommons, aside from 3 visits at the time, was these are all super cheap. All the etched foils I thought that were going to be insanely priced were super cheap. And it was just a matter of being patient. And my situation was unique for sure, but that still harkens back to just giving yourself time and letting your wallet breathe. If you get paid on Friday, a set comes out, wait till next Friday and see what those prices look like. And instead, invest in what you want versus what you need.
Day buying is rough.
Yeah.
I'd say wait 2 to 3 weeks, to be honest. 2 to 3 weeks is the good time to say that people have tested to say that they're rubbish or they're good. And yes, some cards might go up, but most of them just plummet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you also know the drop rate that's going to be in there, right? Like Zach was saying, I also thought those etched foils were going to be nuts. When they said that there was going to be etched foil Thrasios, for instance, I was like, well, that's just going to be costly. Who wouldn't want to upgrade to that? And it's significantly cheaper than the older one.
Yeah. Wizards has done a good thing for us that aren't as financially endowed, I guess is a good way to put it, with collector boosters. A thing I remember is like I started playing around Magic 2010, and it used to be Baneslayer Angel was the absolute hotness, and that was a mythic, and you were lucky to get it at a reasonable price, and if you opened it, it was like a banner day in your household. Now with collector boosters and all these different versions of rarities and all these different versions of, well, when I mean different versions of rarities, I mean just different card types, like full art foil and edge and mystical archives and all that stuff. Like mythics now are nothing like what they used to be. They're more powerful in most situations, if we're being honest, but financially speaking and price wise, going and getting a mythic is like ecological appreciation was a card I thought was just, and I still think is going to be absolutely insane because people are completely looking over it, but it was $1. And I bought, every time I go in, I get that and Blex. I buy those out at my LGS. And
Blex is cool.
Blex is very good. But that's just the thing. Like, everything we think is going to be expensive isn't. Even Planeswalkers. Most of the time, it used to be when Planeswalkers were released, you couldn't touch them unless you were spending 30, 40, even $50 in some situations. Now, like, I thought my foil full art Kesmina was going to be super expensive. It's not. It's more expensive than what I think it should be. But if I just wanted to go pick one up, it wouldn't really hurt my wallet.
What you were saying is, well, you go first, Lotus, because I've got a point to rant on.
No, that's fine. I was going to say, it feels like Wizards are going down the road of Pokemon, where sets are pretty much have no value except for 5 chase cards. And they print
and they're all Charizard.
Yeah, and and they print so many variants, like Double Masters. You've got pre-release, Fat Pack, Draft, Set, Collector. There's going to be so much product. It's going to tank all those prices except the big 5. And do you really want the big 5? Most of the time, no. It's standard players that want them.
I love it.
I usually want them. I do. What I wanted to say as well is the collector boosters are doing a good thing because what is the card? It was in Timeless Wisdom. The 0 cost get rid of a spell, counterspell. What am I
Fierce
talking
Guardianship.
about? Fierce Guardianship. That deck is only expensive because of that card. That card is not accessible other than that deck. Dockside Extortionist is another example of this is why it's expensive. You're buying a Dockside Extortionist and 99 cards when you're buying that deck, right? Mm-hmm. With the new sets coming out, they said that there's so many specific cards. So there's 68 cards specific to D&D decks. I assume a lot are going to be legendary and, again, equipment cards. I think that those are going to be kind of the route that thing goes. But I also think that we're going to get unique tribal cards in something like that. And we'll go into that a bit more on Patreon. I want to talk about some of that stuff. But Ink Shield and Scholarship Sponsorship are the 2 cards I wanted to mention the most. Those cards are phenomenal. Those cards need to be in more Commander decks because that is the best fog card that there is. Its cost is high, but it's nuts. Prevent every 1 damage, and for each 1 damage dealt to you, you get a 2/1 flyer. That card ends games. That can turn being just overrun, somebody crater hoofs you, and you now have 500 2/1 flyers. It's a bad time unless someone's holding a Rakdos Charm.
Yeah.
Don't like Rakdos Charm. Rakdos Charm and Cyclif, two hate cards. But the thing is with the baby commander decks, as I like to call them, like Oboon, Anawan, they generally haven't had many of those cards, so we haven't needed to get a lot of that back into circulation. It was kind of the legendary creatures and 2 or 3 other cards, but everything else was there. It was just a pre-set thing. But these Innistrad ones are going to have 60 new cards as well, right? So there is 128 new unique to commander cards coming on top of what we've already got this year. And that is going to be a lot. Gavin went on in his video to talk about how they don't want to print more arcane signets. They don't want cards that just simply must be in every commander deck. As much as we think that it would be a good thing, we don't want to see more Soul Ring arcane signets where you have, the more colors you go up, there's no reason to not run an arcane signet. It's a $6 mana fix, right? So I'm interested to see what their take on these unique cards are. but I'm just really, really happy that they're not Commander deck exclusive. They are in those collector boosters, generally in cooler artwork and full artwork.
Mm-hmm.
But I there is a lot of Commander cards that need to be back into recirculation because they're just not reasonably costed and accessible and stuff. And a lot of times finding out, like I said, Dockside Extortionist, that really does need another printing. Do you need Dockside to play? No.
I have heard,
But
I
want
was
one.
listening to Good Morning Magic with Gavin. Dockside is on their radar for a reprint, but it takes them about 2 years to work out where to put this stuff. So it can be on
True.
its way back. He also mentioned on a previous one that White will have some more cards that are staple to Commander, like Archaeomancer's map, because they need to bump White a bit more. So they say on one hand they don't want to create Arcane Signet because it reduces the variance of a Commander deck because you're going to always put these certain cards in. And then they go Archaeomancer map, Monologue Tax, and all these other ones going, here's more staples. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
We have a listener in particular who is obsessed with White needing more help and not understanding why I in particular think that White is strong enough. And people are going to see how not fun it is to play with White when White suddenly has the card draw of blue and the ramp of green. And you're getting like the typical like turn 3 Avacyn. People are going to kind of see why it's not balanced around that. But yeah, I understand. Like some people just want to be able to outramp the, this is my Angels deck, and why can't I outramp the Elves deck? Yeah, there's a reason. It's because the Angels are going to dominate the Elves once they're out.
Yeah.
But, like they are going to, like you said, they don't want things in every Commander deck, but they just have heard like the cries of people who can't understand why you can't have Angels on turn 3 because it's a real problem. If you don't think Angels on turn 3 are a problem, make a green-white Angel deck, and you'll see quickly how it storms off.
Green-white? You mean like Esper or Abzan? And you entomb and reanimate Avacyn?
Oh, that's the other problem. Is exactly like the White. I'll go into it in its own episode because we wanted to talk the color pie, but I personally believe White is the strongest secondary color. Because exactly, Black has its great reanimate, and if it can reanimate these enormous White targets, awesome. If you have White and Blue, you have a deck no one likes to play against because you're Azorius, and it's generally Grand Arbiter or Lavinia, and your playgroup doesn't want to see you. I get it. I built them so much. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, the Geist of Saint Traft is good because it puts in the Angels. It has the counterspell stuff to... Like, White is a really good supplemental color. And when we are getting more and more of these, I really, really liked the most about the recent decks is how they kind of plane shifted the cards a little bit, right? The colors didn't do what I was going to expect them at all to do. Quandrix was the only one that kind of did Simic-y things, but like the Witherbloom stuff doing the life gain theme, I would not have guessed that to be coming. The Boros Reanimator that has made Zach a true believer.
Mm-hmm. Very true, yes.
Like, I don't know, like, what do you guys think that they're going to, like, focus on with these, like, cards that aren't supposed to be across every Commander deck, but Commander specific?
I think we're going to see, like, what you have been ranting about is just that we've seen such an outcry from people that they don't, and I'm not trying to be a jerk when I say this, but they just don't understand how powerful cards really are. When I talked to Jim on What's in the Box last week, we had discussed that with the rules committee, for example, a lot of Commander players aren't concerned about the overall rules, right? They're more concerned about their play group and their meta. So a lot of people who complain about White might not be as entrenched. Not that I'm saying I'm the be-all, end-all of Commander players, because I'm not. But I play a lot of Commander. I build a lot of Commander decks. I am very entrenched in the format. I know White is powerful. So I'm worried what's going to happen is that we're going to get what you said. We're going to get these cards that just have to go in every deck because they're good. Because White needs this, quote unquote. because black needs this. We need more enchantment hate in black, because if you guys get rid of my graveyard with something, I got to be able to get rid of it. I got to get rid of Rest in Peace if I'm playing mono black. Like, having those color shifted cards is cool, but there's a level to where that needs to be capped. And I'm just worried that moving further, we're going to see potentially more bans in our format because cards are just too powerful and they homogenize the format.
Yeah. I mean,
I really quickly want to say, if you put Eternal Witness in black, you'll bankrupt Zach.
yeah.
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 No, go ahead.
Just
Go
simple,
ahead.
yeah, bankrupt. But I play mono white. I have a Saphara mono white angel deck, and Brian has felt the wrath of that deck many times, where I've countered his stuff, stolen his stuff, made everything indestructible, wiped the boards, single-sided, not mine. And once I get going, that's it, done. You can't deal with me. I reanimate, I count, it's... If you're going to give me more white cards, I'm just going to make that deck worse.
You don't reanimate, you reincarnate.
True.
It is different. They are secondary, not first.
I truly believe that deck strength is in your deck building and not specifically your card pool. Card pool helps, but more than that, game knowledge, like just learning obscure rules and interaction. Talk with someone like Lotus and figure out like cool ways that things work, like the difference between CMC, like converted mana cost, and converted mana value. They're mana value and mana cost. They're different.
Dan learned something recently. Mana value and mana costs.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, they are just game knowledge. It gives you a leg up on a lot of people, and just knowing what different colors of decks should be stronger in different parts. And if you keep giving people the tools in those colors to just accelerate their game plan, like a black deck is not specifically strong turn 1 or turn 2. If you let them get to turn 8 where they've filled their graveyard with stuff, you're gonna have a bad time, right? Once Zach has entombed his things and he has his loops that he can get into, or his like even that new Auric card that lets you tutor to the graveyard, you don't want stuff like that in a black deck, right? You don't want stuff like... No, but that's what I mean. If you're sitting across the table, you don't want to be seen... I don't want Zach to have 40 cards in his graveyard turn 3. I don't want some like personal mill 10 for 1. Like, I don't want a Hedron Crab for yourself in black, where every time it's a landfall, Zach can mill 3. Don't want to see that. Nope.
I've legitimately thought about playing 1 with nothing so many times so I can just go 1 black, discard my hand.
Start dredge.
but that's what I mean, right? Like, there's so many strengths to it, and that's kind of I guess where we want to wrap before we go over to Patreon is kind of, there is wallet fatigue, but there is light at the end of the tunnel and stuff, right? One thing that we are seeing is you don't need to buy every one of them. I personally do, because I have no self-control, but it doesn't change that, like I said, we don't need to add 15 commander decks a year to our collection, right? 3 years in, you have 45 decks. That's a little crazy. Wink, wink. But like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, there's fun ways to play. They're making these decks were fun. The Osgear deck, like specifically, like it's just fun to play. If you haven't had a chance to pilot it, you should try if you have access to it. And if you don't, print the cards out and try it anyways, because it's really fun. It's a fun deck. It's out of the box pretty good. Like I said, all of these, I really, really liked it. I'm actually blown away how much I liked the Orzhov deck. I thought like, it's okay. Like we're doing a league. I thought it's like fun. I'll try and make deals with people, but it's just a fun deck. Like, it's a really cool counter deck. And then I saw Nils in the deck, and Nils is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've bought every copy of Nils I've seen.
Yeah, that deck's nuts.
Yeah, like I like that they're trying to encompass more playstyles and give, it seems in the release, give something to everyone, right? Budget players are getting some things. We're generally getting more accessible land bases, which has always been what Commander needed, right? Like, opinions on the pathways aside, I just keep coming around to them more and more because they're very accessible. I have enjoyed cracking them every time I've cracked them.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see more stuff like them. Could you imagine, by the way, pathway duels where it's like Forest Mountain one side, Mountain Plains on the other? Ooh.
I'd love that.
Wizards, hire me.
That's a problem. That's what that is.
Quadlands.
We already have triomes, so why not quadomes?
Yeah. Yeah, Zach, we'll move over to Patreon here. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will go back into it. So let them know where they can find all our content. Thank you guys so much for listening to us rant, basically, for the last while. And yeah, Zach, take it away.
So if you made it this far, once again, thank you. You guys are why we're here doing this. If you want to support us in a more financial way, you can find us over on Patreon. If you want to find any of our content, we're at intothe99.com, where you can find articles, podcast episodes, videos, all that good stuff. It's your one-stop shop for Into the 99. If you'd like to advertise Into the 99, we do have a merch store. You can find all of our amazing merch over at some merch store about Into the 99. I forget what the link is. Brian could probably tell me.
It'll be in the show notes, yeah.
Make sure to check out Brewing It Live is it Saturday now?
As of the 22nd, it'll be moving to Saturday.
Look at that. Saturday, more fun day, sure. Parallel Thoughts, we just recorded an episode yesterday, so it should be up sometime in the near future. Make sure to check out What's in the Box, my interview series, the videos live with Jim. Make sure to check out Dan's Lore episodes. They're on podcast. And we stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. EST.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We do a lot, and again, thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, and yeah.
Ring the bell. Make sure to comment with the word peanut butter in the bottom of in the comment section if you made it this far.
You'll win nothing but our respect.
Oh, you'll win my admiration.
Lotus, what do they win from you?
I might do something special.
Thank you so much for listening.
Take care.